You're welcome back to the second season of the Naija Filmmaker, a podcast for us to talk about Nigerian filmmakers, their films, and how we can build a diverse and functional industry. I'm your host, Sele. On this episode, I'll be talking about risk assessments. I will explain what it is, examples of its usefulness, and why you need to start creating them for your film productions. If you're a new listener, you're welcome and I hope you enjoy. A risk assessment is an examination of what could cause harm on a particular shoot or at a particular location, so that the producer or the production company can decide whether adequate control measures are in place to prevent them. They are the best way for you to manage production risk, security, safety, and medical, and it helps you to protect your people, assets, and your brand. So this is how risk assessments work. The first step is to identify the activity, then to identify the hazard, and then identify the person at risk. From there, you identify the risk factors and identify the actions to be taken to minimize such risk. And then after all this, you then have a new risk factor, which should be less than the previous one because you have identified an action that should reduce the risk involved. So now for examples, we'll first identify the activity, which is we want to film on a river. The hazard is possible drowning. The person at risk is either the camera crew or the actor. And the risk factor is very probable. So now to identify the actions to be taken to minimize this risk. So for the camera crew, you can say you're going to give them life jackets. That's one action you can do. But of course, for the crew, they're on camera and possibly the life jacket is not part of the costume. So you could say that, first of all, depending on if the boat is moving or not, you can say you secure it to the dock with a rope. Part of the reason for using the rope is to possibly pull the boat to shore if there's an accident. Another action that you can take to mitigate accidents is to have scuba divers on standby. This will mean that in the event that something crazy happens and people fall into the water, there's somebody to immediately rescue them. So after you have identified all these different actions, you need to give a new risk factor. Generally, you want to avoid these accidents because they have the potential to halt productions or cause delays, and this means a lot of money will be lost. The safety officers on set are the first AD and the producer. The first AD is the primary person because they are always on set. The producer might leave set from time to time, but the first AD is the one that is always responsible for the safety of the cast and crew. Generally, the first AD creates the risk assessments, but this can be assigned to other crew members. In some countries, risk assessments are used by insurance companies to underwrite the risks involved with making that particular film, and they are also used when a claim needs to be made. For them, they need to be sure that you were as careful as possible and what happened was an accident. There's this quote that says the biggest risk is taking no risk at all. The Nigerian film industry needs to start being ambitious with their films. This means dealing with hazards like people tripping over cables to working with explosion stunts, water, and wild animals. Risk assessment generally help you to identify these hazards and look out for them in the course of the filming day. And it means that sometimes the AD has to stop the DOP or director from doing something that could have like real implications on the safety of the equipment or the safety of the crew. Currently, I don't think this is a general practice in Nigeria, but trust me, it will help you to control the risk involved in making the ambitious films. Risk assessments tend to be bulky documents, but it will save you a lot of drama. In the course of filming, if there's an accident that leads to an injury or loss of life, this could possibly lead to a lawsuit. And the first people that are in the firing range are the AD and the producer. If found guilty, this could mean jail time. I'm sure all you wanted to do is make films, but then through your negligence, it resulted in the loss of life. Doing these risk assessments and adhering to them will help you to stay clear of catastrophic accidents. If you have more questions about risk assessments, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to explain further. You have come to the end of this episode. Please remember to leave a rating and a review. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Sele Film, and the podcast also on Instagram and Twitter at the Naija Film Pod. See you on the next episode. Have a good one.